Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious with space news, space history, occasional birthdays. And today we're going to look at some of the shuttles of the month of September and some of their iconic imagery on their patches there. So we just want to remind you that the American Space Museum is the front of the U.S. Space Walk of Fame Foundation that for over 20 years has been preserving the birth of America's space age right here in Brevard County. Our museum is literally 10 miles away from Kennedy Space Center across the Indian River, and we're grateful that many of you have visited us before, and those of you that haven't, we have a virtual tour of our museum you can take. I posted that on Sunday on our Facebook, and we'll try to do that every Sunday. And we'd also like to hear from you about some of your favorite shows on Stay Curious, as I intend to take the first week of October off and visit some family and friends in Ohio. And Marty Winkle, my co-producer and partner in crime for over 630 episodes of Stay Curious, we're going to come up with some reruns, if you will, to show. And I might pop up from the Neil Armstrong Museum in Wapakoneta. We might try to do a show from there, but we'll have some backups of programs for you to enjoy. Stay curious while I take a week off and catch my breath for what's going to be an exciting fall around here at the American Space Museum. So, but we do want you to know our proud nonprofit can always use your help, and we thank the UCAC brothers, Tom and Mark, for buying us a new microphone so we can say hello to Marty. Hey, Marty, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mark. Thanks.
Good, good. Well, Marty's can give you now the questions that you have. We know everybody enjoyed yesterday's show. Marty, you remember the infographic I put of the space shuttle, all the hits it took. That thing blew up our Facebook page. Over 60 shares, almost 9,000 people have seen that infographic. So we may make a show out of that one day. Had some good comments that the colorization may be misleading because one of those color sections was very microscopic, almost impacts. Anyway, we love that y'all follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Spotify, and of course Facebook Live. And we are approaching 10,000 followers on Facebook. I think we're 18 short of 10,000. So if your wife, your husband, your significant other, your dog, your cat has a Facebook page that they haven't liked or followed American Space Museum, please check that there. It's important for us to hit 10,000 and begin to monetize Facebook for our proud nonprofit. So,
Hey, Mark, let everyone know to let us know if there's a favorite they want to see.
right, if there's a favorite Stay Curious program you'd like to see the first week of October, while I'm on vacation, please chime in on that. Marty will write them down. We've got a few in mind, but we thought about turning into an astronaut week, but we might not do that. But we'll have an astronaut reprise or two on there also. So, of course, the entire catalog of our Stay Curious programming is on Facebook, and we have been on YouTube since about July last year. No, April. April is when we went to YouTube. So we're approaching a year, about 8 months on YouTube. So that's where we want you to watch it, as every time you watch an ad, we get 20 cents or something like that. So, well, we got a fun little program for you today, but we do want to remind you that we are now coming from the Hyatt Place studios inside the American Space Museum, as the beautiful Hyatt Place is going to sponsor an event a week from Sunday, September 29th, called The Base to Space, about the mobile launch platform number 2, a very historic launch pad. This is the big structure that the crawler took out, that either the shuttle or a Saturn V rocket was on there. And many seminal missions, important missions, as 51L that we lost was launched off of Mobile Platform 2. This documentary by Mike Cotton and Dave Barnes proves it will be a fascinating afternoon on Sunday, September 25th from 2 to 5 o'clock. The event will be. The movie will be at 3 o'clock. We'll have a pre-show presentation and a party afterwards there at the Hyatt Place Hotel. A beautiful Hyatt Place right there. Looking at it between the trees there, palm trees, right on Route 1 beside 405, the entrance into Kennedy Space Center. Marty, you got a question?
Yeah, Larry Puskar's asking about Artemis t-shirts, and we ran out. We have another order. They should be in Monday at the latest.
Okay, so we'll ship you an Artemis t-shirt for the price of the t-shirt and $10 shipping and handling. And thank you, Marty, for taking care of that with our t-shirt printer, T-Bone Designs. They've done a good job for us. So back to, yes, so we're going to have the base to space. Astronaut Bruce Melnick has committed to be there. And if you're local here on our Space Coast, we hope for you to show up. Tickets will be $25, limited to 100 tickets, $30 at the door. And the documentary filmmakers of Mike Cotton, Dave Barnes, and their executive producer, Pete Charmon, are going to donate all the proceeds to the American Space Museum. So if we sell out, we stand to make almost $3,000, Marty. And we need that kind of cash flow to keep our museum open. So that'll probably pay our electric bill and water bill for the month there. But so the base to space, meet astronaut Bruce Melnick, September 25th at 2 o'clock at the Hyatt Place Hotel. We want to thank Mr. Hugh Harris, who was on Stay Curious yesterday. About the 5th or 6th time we've had Hugh on, Marty. And he is only 89 years old, folks, and still full of great stories, particularly shared several with his good friend Jay Barbary, who passed away, the NBC newscaster. So thank you, Hugh, for supporting American Space Museum and coming on once a month to share Shuttles of the Month. And we'll have him on with the Shuttles of October. And Artemis fever is catching, Marty. Okay, everywhere you look, Artemis is going on with the test. Is going to be the 23rd. So that's about a week from today. Week from Saturday, they'll test the engine, see if the fix they were doing out there at the pad worked. And this beautiful picture is by Ann Miklos. All right, Ann Miklos, a engineer, structural engineer on the shuttle. Ann was involved with the outside skin and its integrity and everything of the shuttle. And we'll have Ann on one day, but she's an outstanding photographer. I turned around getting some peaches and apples at the local produce, and there was her picture of Artemis there. And I like juxtaposing it against something that's not so modern, a farm tractor there. Though they have a lot of modern farm tractors, but the Earth and space right there juxtaposed. Thank you, Ann Miklos, for supporting the American Space Museum, and we're going to get her on and talk about her career one day here, as well as show a few nice pieces of her artwork. And I want to say, a year ago we interviewed Jamie Draper. In fact, Bart Martindale did. I talked to Bart today, Marty. He's been covered up as what do they call them? The Kennedy Visitors Complex communicators. Yeah, Bart's out there as a communicator. Marty's a communicator for out there. This is a look at. I thought I had another picture of him in there. Did that not show up? Oh, there's the other picture. Jamie Draper. He is the director of two museums, the Sands Space History Museum, and then the museums on the property at Kennedy Space Center. Not Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral. And what you see behind there is the lighthouse. Thought I had another picture in there. I don't. I wanted to show you the outside of Hangar C that this was. Sorry I didn't put that in. But just beyond that lighthouse, see that water tower beneath that palm tree, Marty? You can circle that. That is pad 36. That is where Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket is going to blast off a mile and a half away from the iconic lighthouse. And it's over 300 feet tall, 18 feet in diameter. And I keep telling the lighthouse people, nobody's done any ground tests out there from Blue Origin. I really fear they're going to have to move this, or it's going to come crumbling down by the vibrations of this massive New Glenn rocket that we hope we can see fly next year. They sure have got a hell of a facility out there to build something, don't they, Marty? So we know it's big. We know it's going to make a lot of racket, and it's going to blow people's minds when Blue Origin becomes a player of launching gigantic space structures like modular units for hotels and factories in space. That's what I think Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin is going to be all about. So, but kudos to you, Jamie Draper, out there doing a great job at Cape Canaveral Space Force, and we'll have Jamie back on one day. Well, Space Shuttles of September, Marty. Something that we love talking about is the 30-year space shuttle era that has changed our world by building the International Space Station. You cannot imagine the thousands of spin-offs from space that are now applied in our everyday lives. Just reach in your pocket or your purse for that smartphone, for example. And so many things pioneered in our space station going on right now was pioneered inside the cargo bay of the space shuttle. The month of September, by the numbers, is 11 shuttles. The Discovery and Atlantis had 4 flights. Endeavour had 3 flights. No flights in September for the orbiters Challenger or Columbia. All right, Challenger's OV-099 and Columbia is orbital vehicle tail number 102. And they didn't fly in September. There was basically only one satellite mission dedicated to the entire mission. That would be the TDRS tracking data relay station that was deployed. Which one was that? Was that 106? No, I don't think that was 106. 3 hard hat missions to the space station, 5 science payloads, including Japan's space lab there in the middle, STS-47. Some of the oddities, right now in space history on this date, there were 42 astronauts in orbit at the same time. But I'm going to tease you first with Shuttles of September. We've got the iconic images of their logos, but what is Perry Como in the middle there? And the Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp, the marching band song of the University of Connecticut, and the Eagles song Hotel California. What do they all have to do with Shuttles of September? Marty, you got a guess?
I do, but you told me the answer already.
Okay, well, let's see if anybody guesses the answer there. And don't tell the answer, Marty. I'm going to save it for the end. Is what does all this mishmash have to do with the Shuttles of September? So you'll find out. Well, here is all of our 11 shuttles laid out on a timeline with the date at the top, you see, of the month. And you go down to today's date, and we see on September 15th, that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got 79, 51, 47, 48, 115, 44, 106, and 69 are all orbiting Earth tomorrow on the 16th when we launch off 79. So you got 2, 4, 6, 7 orbiting shuttles in space history. None of them are Challenger, or none of them are in the 80s, actually, in fact. They're all in the 90s and 2000s. This represents 42 individual astronauts orbiting the Earth today. Tomorrow we'll add 16 with 6 more astronauts, so I'd make 48. And I find it interesting that you've got all these astronauts, all these shuttles on this date juxtaposed in history. 4 astronauts can say, this week in space, I was on 2 different shuttles. That would be Waltz, Wilcock, Reedy, and Lee. All had multiple missions during this week, all right, on the space shuttle. And of the shuttles of September, two of them were launched on the 9th, STS-64 in 1994 and STS-115 in 2006. On the 12th that we had this week, three shuttles launched on the 12th, as you see there, 48, 47, and 51. Oddly, STS-47 was launched a year after STS-48. That's not numerically correct, Marty. And we've talked about many times workers like Marty, who worked on the space launch process system. Years ahead of time, these orbiter and the missions were given a assigned number, and due to maybe delays in production facilities, processing of the shuttle, something happened to the science payload that they're changing, or something failed during testing, it moves back these shuttles. So 47 was after 48, a year later in the sequence of shuttle flights. So a few things to learn about there. And I'm looking at the last shuttle of the month is STS-68 in 1994, and STS-69 is the first shuttle of the month, launched on the 6th. Right there, a huge mission on the 29th, STS-26 in 1988. That is the only mission in the 80s. That is our return to flight after the Columbia tragedy, and we'll talk about that later this month. We're going to talk about the payloads on STS-47 on Space Lab with Mikey Haddad on the last Wednesday of the month. So there are the shuttles of September, all right. And to let's look a little bit at the design patches. After all, the American Space Museum is big on science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We have a wonderful education director, Darren Roberts, who's had several programs today with kids, homeschool kids. Through Darren and Karan Conklin, our executive director. This has been her big dream, is to get an active STEAM education program going here. And the A for art in STEAM, you see it's called STEM sometimes. That could be, the A could be for astronomy, agriculture, astronautics, astrobiology, aeronautics, all right? All those A's apply to things that are happening at NASA. But the great James Webb in 1964 started America's NASA's Art in Space program with the launch of Gordon Cooper on the last Mercury flight. 8 artists were chosen to go and do their thing, from pencil sketching, like Paul Calley did, to drawings and watercolors like a guy named Hurd did. So we want to celebrate once in a while what these patches mean, and you'll be amazed sometimes at the detail in them. First up is STS-69, all right, launched on September 7th. And STS-69 was designed by the mission crew members, symbolizes the multifaceted nature of the flight. Now, Bruce Melnick, the astronaut, head astronaut at the Kennedy Visitors Complex, explained to me that that's one of the first things a commander did when the crew's chosen, is you get them together to talk about what do we want our patch to symbolize about our mission. And that way you kind of find out who's got not artistic talent, but how they interact with each other, all right? Who's going to be the first one to speak, and who's going to say very little, and this sort of thing. So Bruce Melnick on STS-49 was the maiden flight of Endeavour. He said he designed most of that patch himself, and then his second flight, when the commander learned that he designed the patch, he said, take it over and do it there. So, you want that down? Marty wants my Stay Curious sign out of the way. How about if I put it over my face, Marty?
That's fine.
Okay. Well, that's my cheat sheet of my shuttles of the month there. There we go. I'll put it over here. So, what's going on here? The astronaut emblem in the middle, that's the astronaut pin, signifies the importance of human beings in space exploration. reflected by the planned spacewalk to practice for International Space Station activities. Along with two spiral plumes, the stylized space shuttle symbolized a NASA first, the deployment and recovery on the same mission of two spacecraft, the Wake Shield facility that Hugh Harris talked about yesterday, and Spartan. So it released two satellites and retrieved both of them, put them back in, brought them back to Earth. The constellations you might not recognize, Canis Major and Canis Minor, represent the astronomy objectives of the Spartan and the International Extreme Ultraviolet Hitchhiker payload. The two constellations also symbolize talents and dedication of the support personnel who make space shuttle missions possible. And that is a loose interpretation of Canis Major and Minor there, Marty, but the intent is there. The next mission to go up in space on 106 in the year 2000 on September 8th. This design was for the first shuttle flight to the International Space Station since the arrival of its newest component, the service module Zvezda, Russian for star. Zvezda is depicted on the crew patch, mated with the already orbiting Node 1 Unity module, in the Russian-built functional cargo block called Zarya, which means sunrise. A Progress vehicle is at the rear of the infant space station there. That is a supply spaceship, and that's at the far end of the space station depicted at the bottom. Again, this is the year 2000, right before we occupied it permanently. International Space Station is shown orbiting Earth. The astronaut office symbol, a star with 3 rays of light, provide a connection between Space Shuttle Atlantis and the space station, much the same that the Space Shuttle program is linked to the ISS during its construction. The stylized versions of the flags from Russia and the United States meet at the space station. They symbolize both the cooperation and joint efforts of the two countries way back 22 years ago. And of course, the astronauts' names are around there, and usually on most patches, the mission number is not there. STS-106 is, and later missions to the space station construction, they put the number of the station up there. And sometimes the mission technical numbers and letters. Wilcott was the commander and Altman was the pilot on this mission there. So we're going to look at 4 more patches, 6 total, and we'll cover the other 5 on another Stay Curious. But this is Mark Lee, his second flight in September. He's famously on the STS-47 with his wife, Jan Davis. But this patch of STS-64, which was launched on September 9th, 1994, depicts the Space Shuttle Discovery in a payload bay to Earth attitude with its primary payload, the LIDAR in Space Technology Experiment, operating in support of the Mission to Planet Earth directive. All right. And what happened here is you see 2 untethered EVA crewmen. This is the last time that we did a spacewalk untethered, as Mark Lee and Carl Mead both tested called the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue, or SAFER. All right, that is represented symbolically by the 2 small nozzles on the backpacks of the untethered EVA crewmen. And of course, the names of the crew members encircle the patch. The gold or silver stars by each name represent that person's parent service. All right. And the remote manipulator arm system is operating on another payload there, which is called the Shuttle Plume Impingement Flight Experiment, Marty, the SPIFEX, BIFEX. And we'll have to ask Mikey about what he knows about that. the SPIFX, Shuttle Plume Impingement Flight Experiment. That would hint at me that they're studying the plumes by the reaction control thrusters, Marty, but I'm not going to swear to it. But another simple but beautiful patch there. And again, you've got the astronauts on either side of the circle, oval, and you see the vector going up into the center of the payload. That is, again, the astronaut symbol that they get for their flights. That's you see an astronaut with a gold flight looking like that, the star with the vectors and the circle, that he's been to space, all right? He or she's been to space, so. And we have got here STS-115 in 1906. September 9th is when it was launched. This one always looks to me, Marty, like a aircraft carrier. Okay, I always just see the shuttle's on an aircraft carrier there. But that symbolizes the, of course, the solar panels of the International Space Station, that this was a primary mission, was to assemble an installation of truss segments P3 and P4. Following the installation of these segments, a series of 3 spacewalks completed the second set of solar arrays. All right. Space Shuttle Atlantis launches off towards Earth on this patch. The trail depicts the symbol of the astronaut office again. Okay. The starburst, representing the power of the sun, rises over the Earth and shines on the solar panel. The shuttle flight number 115 is shown at the bottom of the patch, along with the ISS Assembly designation 12A, the 12th American Assembly Mission. That's what 12A means. The blue Earth in the background reminds us of the importance of space exploration and research to all of Earth's inhabitants, all right? The NASA insignia designed for shuttle flights is reserved for use by astronauts and for other official use as the NASA administrator may deem. So public availability of these is available, like when I'm using it here, but you can't charge for this patch outside of authorized purveyors of it that are the vendors. And so this was designed by Graham Huber, Gigi Liu, and Peter Hugh in connection with the York University in Toronto, Canada. And not sure why that is. Must have had something to do with the Canadians' involvement with the International Space Station. And our fifth and final patch, no, we got 2 more. We have got this patch, the UARS mission. This is a very important upper atmosphere research satellite that when this mission was launched, STS-48, in 1991 on September 12th, 1991, folks, 31 years ago. Now, this was one of the bedrock satellite missions for understanding the climate change that's happened in the last 30 years. Data that this spacecraft took 30 years ago is being compared with what's going on now to understand what is happening on the global climate front. This was Endeavour. This was Discovery orbited the Earth. The stars are those in the northern hemisphere as seen in the fall and winter when UARS will be depicted. Actually, it's the Big Dipper. You see the Big Dipper in the left there. It's got 4 stars in the handle, so it can't be the Big Dipper. They're loosely just putting stars up there. The triangle represents the relationship among the 3 atmospheric processes that determine upper atmospheric structure and behavior: chemistry, dynamics, and energy. That's the big triangle of the patch, one of the few triangular patches of the shuttle era. The continuous process brings life to our planet and makes our planet unique in the solar system, is what this depicts: chemistry, dynamics, and energy. In the color bands of the Earth's horizon extending up to the UARS spacecraft depict the study of the Earth's atmosphere, as if it is lifting up in that rainbow sort of structure there, pieces of the Earth's atmosphere to understand it. And you got the gold vector with the spacecraft's bold numbers there ahead of time. And of course, the astronauts involved with it there. And our last patch has a lot of symbolism on it. This is the STS-47, launched September 12th, 1992. The international crew had the first Japanese astronaut to fly above a space shuttle. His name is behind me there, Morai, Mamoru Morai. And so we've got the Japanese flag and the American flag, the first African-American woman to fly in space, and the first married couple to fly in space are divided into red and blue teams, all right, for around-the-clock operations in Space Lab J, J for Japan, that had 24 material science and 20 life science experiments. 35 of these experiments were sponsored by JAXA, and 7 by NASA, and 2 are collaborative efforts. So this was a big Japan space mission that laid the groundwork for what they're doing, Marty, on the International Space Station and their wonderful Kibo module. The Kibo laboratory on the space station actually has an outdoor porch with a way to pass materials from inside the space station to the outside safely through a docking port there. That's like a dumbwaiter, I would think, putting things in and out. And Marty, have you got to have gray hair like us to know what a dumbwaiter is?
He definitely knows what it is.
Tell everybody that doesn't know what a dumbwaiter is. It's not me when I was taking orders at a restaurant. It's a little trap door type of thing between different floors of a hotel or a restaurant.
Yeah, you can use it to bring meals upstairs or downstairs.
Yep. Bring meals from the upstairs to the downstairs in there. So
upstairs.
I love this patch, though. Beautiful patch. The shuttle depicted there with the space lab in it. They've got the Alaska on the Earth on the right. Alaska's right there, if you can tell that. And then certainly you got Japan on the other side. So we've got Leslie Day, who's paying attention to Stay Curious today. Hello, Sharon McDougall. So glad to see you. We loved putting Sharon up there, putting Mae Jemison in her spacesuit. That was this mission. Daniel DeJorn, he's an airline pilot that he may have flown you around the country. Glad that you're watching, Daniel. So who's thinking about the Shuttles of September? What has all these mismatched there of the Jungle Book?
Ben Usit got it right.
Who got right?
Ben Usit.
Ben Usit got it right. Okay, Ben. Or Cynthia Rossi, she'll know when I tell her the reason that Perry Como's up there with the shuttle, and Lady and the Tramp, and the Eagles, and the Connecticut Marching Band song, Christopher Mick. Do you know what all these have in common on this day in history? Well, William Whiting knows, I'm sure, up there in Michigan. That's right. These are the wake-up songs of all these shuttles on this date in history, September 15th. And Larry Pusker's going, I knew that. Child Zion, glad that you're watching today, and everybody today. So, 1991, STS-48, the wake-up song was played for Ken Reitler's daughters, who were in mission control that day. It is, of course, the song Bare Necessities from Jungle Book. That was 1991 STS-48. Perry Como. How many people do you think watching even know who Perry Como is? All right. Don't Let the Stars Get in Your Eyes is one of his songs. That is the song that he played as the wake-up song on STS-51 on this date in shuttle history in 1993. And on September 15th, STS-69 woke up to the song He Is a Tramp from the cartoon movie Lady and the Tramp up there, all right? So you get it now, what they'll have in common. And some of these I knew the astronaut that they were played for, and others I couldn't find it. But STS-106 was played for Rick the Italian gentleman, Mastrocchio, a well-experienced astronaut. He was on 106, and he's from the University of Connecticut, so they played the University of Connecticut fight song for him on his mission. And then the other one there, if I make it smaller there, you'll see the date, STS 115 on September 15th, 2006. The wake-up song was Hotel California by the Eagles for Mission Specialist Joe Tanner. And so now you know what they all had in common there, all that mishmash of stuff having to do with the space shuttle today. So, Marty, thank you for a wonderful Streamlabs program today and using your microphone. We thank Hyatt Place for sponsoring our Stay Curious Studios as we use their facility again for a event that if you're on the Space Coast, please come pay $25 in advance. We'll have that listed up there tomorrow on a press release so you can see the wonderful documentary on the Base for Space, all about Mobile Launch Platform number 2. I know some of you have walked around it, worked on it, been on top of it, been inside of it. Maybe we'll get you on Stay Curious to tell your story about that. So tomorrow we will have more stories about the space shuttle era for you. Might effort a guest or two on there, but Triple T, we usually have him on Fridays, and he's taking a little break from Stay Curious, but he's doing well. Everything's fine with Triple T. We just kind of ran out of stories from the White Room, all right, after 2 years of stories with Triple T, but we've got some plans to bring him back on here pretty soon. So, Marty?
Yeah, he only ran out of stories that he can tell.
Right, yeah, stories that he can tell. We've heard a lot of them that come to our museum, and we'll tell you some of those stories that we can't tell. That's what Kay Heyer, the astronaut, when I told her that Triple T, the lead of the White Room, was doing Tales from the White Room, she said, you can't tell all those tales. And so astronauts have fun, and everything's just as good. And Marty's writing down Chris Calley. Hey, Chris, good to see you, buddy. We are planning a major event. A Shuttle Fest 2 is in the works right now. We're looking at an April 16th date, Sunday, and we've chosen a very fine hotel and hope to release that information to you next week. And Chris Calley, his father Paul Calley, both are wonderful artists, about 80 postage stamps between the two of them. And we'll get back on the Cali bandwagon here pretty soon, okay? And sell some more of those T-shirts. Those of you that ordered T-shirts, the next order is at the T-Bone Design to get those printed up for you, and then we'll try to sell some more of those. So, great. Well, we appreciate everybody that has contributed to our museum, either in your appearance by or sending us money, or buying a T-shirt, a Cali T-shirt, or maybe buying an annual pass here to the American Space Museum. So we've enjoyed having you today, and until tomorrow, I can't wait to see you again. I'm Mark Marquette. Please come visit our museum or watch Stay Curious so we can bridge the space between us.